evening. Ira Epstein, and here we are with your weekend edition of your financial market wrap-up. And this is for the beginning of trade, if you think about it, because it is Sunday evening, about 5:35 p.m. Central Time. For those in America, big football day, game on right now, but lots of things going on. Let's start out with the news that you deal with right now. Tomorrow, you're going to get the Chicago Federal Reserve National Activity Index at 7:30. Then we'll get U.S. December new home sales for 9 o'clock. Dallas Federal Reserve Bank will update their monthly regional manufacturing numbers for January at 9:30. And then we had the first actions. As you know, if you watched over the weekend, you saw that the ICE had gone into different cities, arrested people, and President Trump has begun the process of deporting them. Well, he wanted to send them to Colombia. He's been using military airplanes to do such, which to me makes sense. You know, we've got the military there anyways. Why pay it out? And Colombia said no. They don't want any military planes bringing the people in. So Trump's reaction was an immediate 25% tariff on all Colombian goods coming into the U.S. now with increased inspections. That'll be raised in 1 week to 50%. And Trump issued a travel ban and immediate visa revocations on all Colombian government officials, as well as sanctions on party members, family members, and supporters of the government of President Petro. So this is the opening salvo. We've been looking to see what would happen there in some manner off of the first challenge to Trump on these tariffs, and it's happening. There's even more news. You see that you've got a failure between Hezbollah and Israel. The truce ended this weekend. Actually, I think it was Friday, and more deaths have occurred in Israel, saying that the Lebanese army has not done what they're supposed to do and take over land and prevent certain things. And Hamas changed one of the prisoners at the last minute and said she'll be released next week. Israel stopped allowing tens of thousands of Palestinians to move back to their homes. So everything there going on. And then we have in Chicago, which is ground zero for ICE, which it turned out not to be. Other areas were first. Now 4 lawsuits filed, and ICE is here. And Tom Homan is here, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, and they're going to be doing their things, and now they're moving for an emergency injunction, 4 different groups in Chicago to stop this. We'll see if that comes about tomorrow, one way or the other. A lot going on, obviously. And in the markets. So I was waiting. You know, once I heard what was going on, I said, we should take a look and see what's going to happen. My instincts were that the dollar would be up, which it is, but I thought it'd be up stronger than this, to be honest. Number 2, I think it's bearish the stock market at first because Trump is following through with what he said. I don't think energies have anything to do with that, and they are getting offers. Bonds and notes, are people going to run for security to them becomes the big question. And you always got to think about that because we don't know what the Trump sanctions are going to do. We're not opening the grains at this point. Bitcoin down $2,200. And the gold market, if we take a look, down 5. That's a bounce. It was down more than that, about 13, but it was up dramatically this week. So why not some profit taking? But I don't think the move is over. And there's cycles that kick in the metals that even get more bullish as the month goes on. Doesn't mean they'll work, but I'm just saying what they are. When we take a look at the E-mini S&P, the market finished out, and this was the monthly. So now you're sitting here at the 6103.25, and if you were to close here, these are all-time highs, as you can see. When we take a look at the E-mini on a weekly basis, you're pulling back a little bit. You're down 0.5% to start the week. You can see what the market's done here. And I thought we'd have resistance up here. As you know, I've mentioned that on the daily charts and so on. And we're here. We're getting it on that weekly chart. It doesn't mean you're not going to blast through it. And by the way, you get another cycle of bullishness that comes in normally to the S&P and the NASDAQ at this time. So there are different cycles at work if you look at the marketplace, and they're to the upside in the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the gold market. When we look at the S&P here, on the swing lines, we have a lower and low, higher high. So you're not trending. That doesn't mean you're not at new all-time highs. But the idea is if you can get a trend going of higher lows, higher highs, it becomes easier to trade with. That doesn't mean you can't go up, and you'd be blind if you said you're not in an uptrend. What's kept that going is the market has stayed consistently over the 18-week moving average of closes, and as it has done so, it's kept the trend of the market going. So on pullbacks into the 59.60 level, that's where I would think support is. That doesn't mean it has to go there. It's 140 points lower, and as I just said, I think the cycles are going to contain the market, but I think what stopped this rally is the upper Bollinger Band. You went right to it, and you stopped last week against it. Makes all the sense to me. I still look for the support to come in, as I said there, if it goes that low. And in terms of slow stochastics, you're overbought. So overbought, got to the upper Bollinger Band, pulling back, digesting right now these new actions with Trump against Colombia, and a perfect foil for him, because Colombia, how much business do they do with the U.S.? We get a lot of flowers from them, that's for darn sure. We get other goods, don't get me wrong. But, you know, when you think of what we get, got to pay attention to that. It's no longer the drugs, I think, the way that you think or other people used to. Remember, Colombia was the drug capital for how long? So we take a look and we see just what's going on there. When we come to the Dow, it didn't quite get up to that upper Bollinger Band, but it also didn't get to the point until today where it's this overbought. If you step back in the market, let's see if I can get this to do it. Yeah, there we go. There we are. So here's where you finished on Friday, and you had a 62 reading on the weekly basis. It's when you opened up tonight that you kick the market to the overbought condition. Maybe it gets up to that Bollinger Band. It certainly could. But I'm going to repeat. Now you've got a market again with a lower and low, higher high on a weekly basis. The NASDAQ, same thing. Lower and low, higher high. Made its run for the upper Bollinger Band in an overbought market, pulling back a little. Nothing wrong with that. And in the Russell, you're fighting to stay over the upper Bollinger Band. But notice, the other markets that are at upper Bollinger Bands fighting battles. This market is laying down at the 18-week average of closes fighting a battle. It is still not the place yet to be. It might be eventually. In the 5-year notes, the market's trying to get a rally. Now, excuse me there. As we take a look at the market, let's go back another time here. This is the weekly chart. The market is flirting with losing its embedded reading on Friday. It's losing it as of right now. So if you're a bear, you want to see this market, if it's going to lose it at the beginning of the week and then regain it. But if it starts moving from here, the odds are, if it can keep this momentum up, it's probably going back to the 109.30 level. That's over a full point higher. It's got to prove that it can do it. The bias is down, but you're now arguing the trend of the market. Haven't knocked it out yet on the weekly chart. 10-year, the same thing. You're fighting the same battle here. I can't get this one to work. I know what I did there, but it's the same pattern. Then we get to the dollar index, which is backing off and lost the bearish embedded reading, and it's just confirming that with the action right now. Let me show you. So on Friday, you had a 77.45 reading. Anything under 79 to me says that the market has lost the bullish uptrend. It has to gain it back right away, but right away on a weekly chart can be Thursday or Friday. You have to remember that. It's always bigger risks on the weekly chart, but they help you to see where the market's at. And if we pull back, I would be looking now for wherever the 18-week average is, and right now it's 106.21. But if it gets down there, what's that story of the dollar going to be so superior, as we have a number of central banks this week coming out? We have our Federal Reserve. We got the European Central Bank. I believe we have the Bank of England coming out. Everybody's coming out trying to figure out what the next step is for what they're going to do. In the euro, you lost the bearish embedded reading. Are we going to go for the 18-week average of closes? This will be very interesting. Trump has the tariffs due to hit Europe, Mexico, China, and Canada. Is he going to go ahead with it? The first thing I'd be doing is going, if I'm all of them, I'd be going, look what he did to Colombia. He's going to follow through on what he says. What are we going to do about it? Do we negotiate or do we fight him on it? And that's going to be the interesting part. Canadian dollar, you can see you're just hanging in here with an embedded reading, still a very bearish looking chart to me. In the Japanese yen, they raised their interest rate. They doubled it to a 0.5 percentage point, and the market's not responding favorably. So the market is still saying not enough. The market might go back down. Dollar reigns supreme over it so far. In Bitcoin, if you lose this and get the red line now getting back under 79, be careful. You might pull back to that 90,000 level, 89,000 right now, and see what the market's made out of here. When we look at the differential between Brent and WTI crude, you're fighting a battle at about a $3.50 level, but no longer down here where you were at the 250. So you've made a move back to the upside. When we look at Brent oil, you got up to the combination of the 100-day average and the upper Bollinger Band. Now, if you've taken my charting course, I go through this over and over in it. And when you hit key moving averages with a Bollinger Band, it's a rough area, especially the first time you've done it. You haven't hit the two together for a long time. So just look. And each time you've gotten up to that 100, you have gotten thrown back. So to see this happening is not a problem. It still looks to me like support's going to be in the market around $75.50 down there as it works off an overbought condition. WTI, the identical thing, but even clearer. When you cleared the Bollinger Band and 100-week average, you immediately went to the 200 and gave the whole thing up this past week. And now you could be headed back for support at 71.80. In the gasoline market, I think you're pulling back into the support at 202.21. You'd have to break through these lows back here to get me into the bear camp. And you put it together and you look at natural gas and you see it's down 12 cents. I'm wearing a sweater as it's still cold in Chicago today, under 30 degrees for our high. However, we're going to be near 50 this week. And after today, everything turns warm again. So as I was telling you last week, got to play this market and understand these energies. Sometimes when we had that extreme cold, which traveled, as you know, as far down as Florida and to the east, and now that's going to be followed by massive winds. They're already warning Chicago of power outages possible tomorrow with 50-mile-an-hour sustained winds throughout a good part of the day. So as that brings in the warmer weather and so on with us, that will head eventually northeast at some point. So what do you do with all this? Well, I think what you do is you join me in the mornings for my morning futures video. I start recording at 6 in the morning. Typically by 6:20, I'm through recording. Shortly after 6:30, 6:40, I've posted an update with 40 charts, trade ideas. You know, in these videos, I have to be very, very non-specific. I can talk what I think the pros are doing in the market, what I see, but I'm not saying buy here, put a stop there, here's your profit objective. I do that in the morning videos because behind those you need a user ID and password, and that's what the government rule is. It cannot be held out, my specific buy, sell in these videos, just in blanket. It's not what they want me to be doing. So I don't. So if you'd like to join this, just go to iraepstein.com under the word research. Everything's there. You can move your cursor to the top here. You'll see an icon. Give that a click. It'll take you into that area as well and sign up there. I'm Ira. You have yourself a great evening. I hope we have a good football game again here with Kansas City, and I will see you all tomorrow.